A very, very good afternoon to you. Thank you very much for joining us here on KTN News Desk on this 21st day of February 2017. Always a pleasure to have you tuned in. Top on our stories this hour, we will be taking a look at the numbers after the mass voter registration exercise closed on a Sunday at 6 p.m. But of course, the exercise begins for Kenyans in the diaspora and for prisoners. And on this note, we will be speaking to Eugene Anangwe live from Rwanda. We understand the exercise is yet to kick off in various parts in the diaspora. Eugene Anangwe from Rwanda will be giving us an update on the same. And even as NASA tries to put its house in order ahead of the August 8th polls, WIPA is having its National Executive Council meeting at this Murimi Mwangi is at the offices where the meeting is being held. Murimi, what exactly are we expecting from that end quickly?
Well, good afternoon, Akisa. From the meeting here, we expect to know the progress of the talks with regard to the NASA, particularly for the WIPA party, which is taking a claim on the presidency. And later, I will be speaking to one of the members of the National Executive Committee to try and understand exactly what WIPA will be seeking from NASA.
We will be coming to you live in or during the program. And of course, Francis Mtalaki from the coast will be joining us also with an update on the war on drugs and the court cases that have been so far. This is KTN News Desk. Let's first take a look at the highlights. Reckoning time for politicians as IEBC releases mass voter registration figures.
Katiba inaruhusu IEBC kusimamia uchaguzi wa mchujo wa chama.
Deputy President defends calls to have IEBC conduct Jubilee Party primaries. And undertakers, nutritionists and clinicians begin their strike. Good afternoon once again. Our sign language interpreter is Meresha Owiti and I am Akisa Wandera. Now, after 1 month of the mass voter registration, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission IEBC is today set to release the final figures of that process. The release comes even as the registration of Kenyans in the diaspora and those in prisons kicks off. IEBC is sure to miss its target of 6 million voters despite a 5-day extension of the process by the court. At least 3.5 million voters had been registered as at Tuesday last week. The exercise came to an end on Sunday after a court ruling that saw the exercise extended from February the 14th to the 19th. In a ruling, Justice Chacha Mwita directed the Commission IEBC to continue with the exercise until February the 19th following a case filed by activist Okia Omtata, who wanted the exercise to continue until June, arguing that closing it at this point will lock out many potential voters who have not received their national identity cards or passports. The release of the tally comes even as the Commission announced that voter registration exercise in diaspora will only be in 5 African nations and will only take part on the presidential poll. Chris Tharu is on standby for us at our city center studio, and he will later be joining us with an update as he adds up those numbers and what it looks like for those who will be going to the poll on August the 8th. And in the same breath, we understand that the diaspora voter registration has failed to commence in Rwanda, and this is after confusion marred the start of the 2-week voter registration of Kenyans in the diaspora after IEBC failed to spell out requirements. The Commission stated neither the gazetted registration centers nor the requirement that those targeted must have valid passports. Let's speak to our correspondent in Rwanda, Eugene Anangwe. A very good afternoon to you, Eugene. Thank you for joining us. What exactly caused this particular confusion?
Hi, it's right here in Rwanda. The registration process was supposed to kick off today, has actually begun. And is a communication that is actually going on that was posted on Facebook page for Kenyans living in Rwanda. That is actually the platform that of the official communication on matters concerning Kenyans in Rwanda usually up there. And the information that they actually remind.
All right, we seem to have a problem with your sound. Eugene, we'll come back to you shortly as we try to sort out that sound issue. Eugene Unangwe there joining us from Rwanda. And as we move closer to the August 8th general election, focus is slowly shifting to the party primaries. And Deputy President William Ruto has defended Jubilee's party request for the IEBC services to conduct the primaries. Ruto maintains that any political party is free to seek the Commission's services to oversee its nominations. Speaking while meeting leaders from Nyamira County, the DP said it is only within the jurisdiction of the electoral agency to accept or refuse a proposal. Ruto said credible national elections can only be achieved if party primaries are conducted in a fair process.
Katiba inaruhusu IEBC kusimamia uchaguzi wa mchujo wa chama. Hiyo ni katiba ya Kenya. Na hakuna vile unaweza kuwa na uchaguzi huru na haki kama haujakuwa na nomination huru na haki. Kazi ya IEBC katika kusimamia uchaguzi mkuu itapungua kama nominations ya political parties imefanyika kwa njia ya huru, haki na demokrasia. Changamoto kubwa ya vyama ni mambo ya nominations. Na kama tunataka kujenga political parties as institutions of governance, we must democratize and make sure that political parties are democratic. And the biggest yardstick for any political party is the nomination process.
Still on the upcoming election, you will have to wait a little longer before you can receive confirmation of the opposition presidential candidate. This is because NASA principals are first discussing the rules of their agreement prior to the general election. Murimi Mwangi reports on the intrigues in NASA.
For the better part of Monday, the National Super Alliance 12-member management committee was holed up in a meeting finalizing on the tenets of their agreement, a document critical to opposition unity, whose raw copy was reportedly presented to the four principals on Thursday last week. Wiper's Kalonzo Musyoka, ODM's Raila Odinga, Fort Kenya's Moses Wetangula, and ANC's Musalia Mudavadi all reviewed the document before sending it back to the committee for fine-tuning.
These four men, realistically speaking, are gentlemen with a longing for rising to high office, which is the presidency. However, the opportunities that are ahead of them are very different.
But the 12-member team is yet to decide on the NASA presidential flag bearer, a matter reportedly complicated by the fact that what appears as the winning formula so far seems to favor the principles of ODM and Wiper, namely Raila and Kalonzo. But a majority of the committee members are said to be opposed to any suggestion about a pact, whose actualization would call for an amendment of the law after the elections. This includes the widely speculated reintroduction of the positions of Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, which would necessitate a referendum after the elections.
It is the structure or the movement or party or coalition that finally determines whether you win an election or not.
This even as research firm Ipsos placed Odinga as the second most popular presidential candidate, after President Uhuru Kenyatta at 30%, followed by Kalonzo at 6%, Mudavadi at 3%, while Wetangula featured among others at less than 1%.
All of those 30% who said they were voting for Raila. And we asked them, who do you think will best promote development? 3/4, 78% thought Raila would be the best, but not all. And yet they told us if the election were held now, they would vote for Raila.
but in what could arguably present a fresh headache to the political outfit. A section of opposition leaders want NASA to undertake joint nomination of candidates in key cosmopolitan counties such as Nairobi and Mombasa, a move which would necessitate the 4 affiliate parties to draft joint nomination rules for the key elective seats in such counties.
In the event that there are joint nomination rules, we will collapse our respective national elections board into some kind of one board for the purposes of those nominations. And the nomination rules that we have, which I think will not be fundamentally different, will apply.
While the 4 NASA principals might sign the coalition agreement before the end of the month, the final decision on the presidential flag bearer could have to wait until late next month in what is widely viewed as a strategy to surprise the name on their ruling Jubilee counterparts. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News in Nairobi.
Well, that is definitely a decision that is awaited for by so many people. And we also understand that Wiper Democratic Movement is holding a National Executive Council meeting. Let's now speak to Murimi Mwangi, who has also been following up on the latest developments in the party. Murimi, very good afternoon to you. We understand that there was a very long meeting yesterday night. What do your sources tell you? Did it yield much?
Well, good afternoon, Akisa. Indeed, negotiations are ongoing within the NASA outfit with regard to the search for the presidential flag bearer. But of course, here at Wiper, there is a meeting of the National Executive Committee. Of course, that happening at a time when the back and forth with regard to the NASA presidential candidate is ongoing. And let's just speak to one member of the Wiper NEC, and that's Mutula Kilonzo Jr., the Makueni senator. But Senator, what exactly do we expect to hear from the meeting that you're holding here today?
The meeting is called upon to discuss, first of all, the results after the ongoing registration of voters. Number 2, the coalition agreement between Wiper and Muungano party. And lastly, of course, the NASA updates as far we have gone. We expect to be given a report so that if there are anything that needs approval, then it can be approved.
Is Wiper as a party happy with the progress of the talks within NASA as regards the presidential candidate talks?
Wiper has not complained about the negotiations and the team as we speak, and therefore the progress they have made is something that we cannot complain at the moment. So there are no issues to complain as we speak, yes.
Is there any change of tune? Is Kalonzo Musyoka still your preferred choice for the presidential candidate within the NASA outfit?
It's almost like a rhetorical question. Murimi Mwangi, that has been, we made a resolution as Wiper, and that remains our choice for the presidential candidate. We have allowed the negotiators in that particular panel to do so with that in mind, that we have offered an alternative, best alternative and best option for the country, not the better, the best. And therefore, we hope they will consider that, and the parameters that they're exploring will consider the possibility of Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka as the presidential candidate for the alliance.
Thank you very much for your time, Mheshimiwa. I know you're rushing for the meeting. Now, that has been the Makueni senator giving us an insight into what to expect from the meeting that is ongoing. It has started. The other members were waiting for the arrival of the party leader, that's Kalonzo Musyoka, whom, as we hear from the party, still remains the presidential candidate that they are selling to NASA. As the negotiations continue, we understand that yesterday the NASA Management Committee was meeting to fine-tune the contents of that particular document, the coalition agreement document that is set to be previewed once again by the 4 NASA principals with a view of finally giving an endorsement of that document to pave way for the country to know who the presidential flag bearer is going to be. Back to you in studio.
Murimi, thank you very much for that. Murimi Mwangi there joining us from the offices of the Wiper Party as they meet, the National Executive Council meets to forge a way forward on the latest intrigues in NASA and who they will be supporting. All right, let's now take a short break. Don't go too far. We still have a lot lined up for you here on KTN News Desk.